Hey everybody, welcome. This is two EdTech guys take questions. We are excited to be able to share some ideas on questions that you send us, and also share some other cool stuff as well, such as in Google Slides you can turn on captions, which doesn't actually generate any punctuation, so it's one really big long sentence, and occasionally it doesn't hear something right, and that makes for awkward but fascinating and somewhat funny moments. But that is that is also something that we deal with. Thank you for joining us, for catching this recording. We are excited to be able to kind of take this in a new direction. Those of you who have been watching this for the last couple of years since a certain pandemic kicked in, welcome to the new format. My name is Rushton Hurley. I run a little nonprofit called Next Vista for Learning. It's an online library of videos by and for teachers and students everywhere. Highlights creativity in teaching and learning. Free to use, free to contribute to, free to download from. No ads, no tracking, no registration. It's just all a big save the world thing. So thank you very much for giving that a look as well. And then there's this.
Hi, I'm Richard, and I run freetechforteachers.com, going on 16 years of reviewing all manner of EdTech tools. Check it out.
All right, so change. This is a slightly different format. I say slightly different, but what we're aiming for is something highly focused, and so we're going to tell you about that as we go. We're going to start with just a couple of questions. So that is going to be part of what you might expect out of two EdTech guys take questions, some questions. And for those questions, let's go to Richard. Richard, what we got?
All right, first question we have came from someone named Anthony, who said, I'm searching your database right now and trying to find some new game making sites. And I want to know if you knew of a good replacement for Sploder, which was amazing, and I miss it so much because students could create their own challenging video games. I wanted to ask in case I missed it. So, yeah, I have two options for you. Number one, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more than just a question and answer type of game, an actual video game that you might put your quarters into at the arcade, Construct 3, you can find it construct.net, is a platform that your students can use for free to develop their own multiplayer games. And you can create a game that's, something like Mario Brothers or Legend of Zelda, that kind of classic game, or something a little more modern as well. Now, the really cool thing about Construct 3 is that it's a block programming environment, so your kids don't have to have any sort of prior programming experience in order to build the game. But if they do have prior programming experience and you want them to learn a little JavaScript along the way, you can toggle on a little button so that instead of programming with blocks, they actually write the program. So that's a really cool little platform. The other option, if you're looking for something a little simpler, a little more straightforward game type of environment, is a website called educandy.com. Educandy.com. And this site, as you can see on the screen right now, lets you or your students create little games, kind of like crossword puzzles or, memory games, multiple choice type of games, games that are based more on knowledge of a topic or a subject, as opposed to being a role-playing game. It's more of a quiz style game. So both of those, I think, are good options for you. And again, both are designed for school use, which I think is really pretty important.
Very cool. I like the reference to putting a quarter in an arcade game. I think I graduated from high school with no quarters and amazing hand-eye coordination. Thank you, Galaga.
Yes. Right. Well, there's a restaurant that I like to take my family to nearby, and they have an old Miss Pac-Man game.
Ooh.
And for the first 6 years of my daughter's life, she didn't realize that you could actually play the game with quarters. And then someone gave her a quarter about a month ago while we were there. And there go all my quarters.
Things have changed.
Yes.
Well, may her hand-eye coordination move in wonderful directions, for sure. I think we can probably put one more question into the mix for this episode. Why don't you share that one with us?
All right. So another question. This one came from Suzanne, and I like this question. I have played around with ChatGPT. It is pretty interesting! Exclamation point. I'm wondering about the copyright of the text it generates. Do you think this will become an issue with AI in the future? Well, what do you think, Rushton?
Man, do I have some opinions on this. I spent
me
the
too.
last month creating a course, a mini course on how to use ChatGPT. And by the way, anybody watching this who's curious about it, go to nextvista.org. In the upper right, there's a contact, and just write me and say, hey, saw the show, would like access to that course, give it to you for free. Now, here's the thing. All right, let's talk a little bit about how ChatGPT works. A lot of people assume that it is a search engine and AI. It's not quite that. What it is a word sequence prediction tool, right? And so what it has done is it's trained on the GP of PT means pre-trained. The G is generative, like it generates writing. The T is transformer, like the 1984 toy. All right. So anyway, so it's pre-trained on huge amounts of stuff from the internet up to 2021. So that's why asking ChatGPT, at least to date, about more recent things wouldn't get you much, unless there's some references pre-2022, 2021 and earlier that it would reference. All right, so it's looking at any given prompt that you give it, and it's like, okay, here are these words. Based on those words, what are likely words to occupy the first part of my answer? And if you've got loads and loads and loads of material, which it was trained on, then it can do that with some accuracy. And the evolving sequence of words that it generates, they themselves become that which it figures out what's going to come next on it. So now that we know that it's not actually a search engine, or at least ChatGPT as a specific generative AI tool is not a search engine, now we can know that what it generates is not likely to be a quote from a given source. So when you ask about copyright of content, this is certainly a question that people who know far more about this stuff than I do are grappling with, because what it does produce is based on stuff other people have done, but it's not like 3 other people. Like if you wrote a bibliography for any answer in ChatGPT, it might go 1,000 pages, right? Because it's drawing upon so very much. Now, I'll add to this that an accompanying question would be, okay, well, if a kid is a kid who is 18 years or old, according to the term, or older, according to the terms of use, right?
Right.
Is using ChatGPT to generate something that is turned in, does that need to be in quotations and cited? And for the same reason, the answer is like, well, no. Instead, you might think in terms of a segment of the assignment that asks students for acknowledgments and methods. So if they use a generative AI tool, then they're explaining that in that as well. I defer to the journal Nature, the very well-respected science journal Nature, which essentially said, do not quote ChatGPT or another generative AI tool, and instead put it in things like an acknowledgments and methods section. So ChatGPT, big whopping deal. Is it going to change lots and lots and lots about our educational system? Generative AI will, whether this tool does it or not. And we could keep going on and on and on about ChatGPT, but in the interest of kind of keeping it a little shorter, I'll pass it back to you.
We will go on about ChatGPT and other AI. I think something of note, and Rushton, maybe people want to see ChatGPT in action. This may be
let's try, because we are recording this on a weekday morning. This is a dicey proposition, because there it is. We're experiencing exceptionally high demand. They seem to experience high demand during school hours. Anyway,
but it's the fastest. So while Rushton's bringing this up, It's the fastest to 100 million new users of anything. Couple other interesting things. I read the Wall Street Journal and a bunch of other financial websites pretty regularly. And one of the things that happened last week that I thought was interesting, number one, Microsoft stock had a little bounce upward.
Absolutely. Based
on news about their use of AI and ChatGPT specifically, but also BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed, famous for its lists of 25 ways to leave your partner and other listicle type of articles. Mm-hmm. They announced that they were going to start publishing content written by ChatGPT.
Which, if they have fact checked,
and their stock bounced upward on that news.
Well, and that might be a good move if they are also making sure that they check, because whatever you put into ChatGPT, one of the biggest things to know about ChatGPT is it's not a tool for accuracy. It's a tool for generating writing. Those two things are different. A search engine has to be accurate or you won't use it. But a generative AI tool just wants to generate writing that looks good. Now, let's be specific. We're talking about this generative AI tool. Microsoft's announcement essentially came down to they're going to be using ChatGPT-like technology with Bing. And the people who are testing this are quite amazed by it because you're getting kind of traditional search results on one side and ChatGPT-like answers on the other. And that now that, of course, crosses into now it's working with a search engine, which gets us into a lot of other questions about how we're going to deal with citations and stuff like that. So, I mean, a great question from Suzanne. I did put into ChatGPT, explain generative AI technology for a first grader. Generative AI is a type of computer program that can create things all by itself, like a really smart robot artist. Just like how you can use your imagination to draw a picture of a unicorn, generative AI can imagine and create new pictures, music, or even stories. It works by learning from examples, kind of like when you learn to draw by looking at pictures in a book or from your teacher. Once the AI has learned enough, it can start making its own unique creations. So it's like having a really smart friend who can make up new things just by thinking about it, and that's pretty amazing. I note that it doesn't also say that similar tools might be used to generate massive amounts of misinformation and propaganda at zero cost, which might be a little over the head of a first grader, but does scare the fecal matter out of me with regard to what this technology can do. I feel that the positives at the moment outweigh the negatives for our purposes as educators, but without a doubt, this is game-changing stuff.
But speaking of drawing, that's a good segue into a cool tool. Or a cool
well done, sir. To tell us about Shapegrams.
So Shapegrams is a website from our friend Tony Vincent. Tony's all-around good guy. And
absolutely.
Very creative guy. In fact, back in the days when Tony and I did some workshops together, I would say you could always tell Tony's segment and my segment by the font choices. Right? You can tell that Tony had worked extensively in elementary school and I'd worked extensively in high school by our font choices. All that to say, Tony is super creative and has a little website called Shapegrams where he teaches people how to make lots of really cool artwork and drawings by using some of the shapes that are available in Google Slides and in Google Drawings, also with PowerPoint and Keynote. So, basically taking a lot of the cool, creating cool things out of shapes that are, not cool at baseline. And he's got some cool lessons plans about it. And he has an entire course about it. But the page, the site you see right now is his free version of it, and go and check it out. If you want to learn how to make some really cool stuff, like how to make a lion by using the tools that are built right into your favorite slides program, Tony can show you how to do that.
It looks like it is somewhat free. Is that right?
Yeah. So he's got a handful of them there that are free. And there's also the option to get all of them for $35, I think. So
looks $35 per year, it looks like.
Yeah. But very, very cool. I know he teaches an entire course on it as well. I don't know
Wow.
what that costs, but yeah. And if you ever see Tony, get to see Tony at a conference somewhere, do it.
So I'll add, by the way, for viewers, that the evolving internet and the dangers of the evolving internet make it a good move to figure out who recommends sites that are safe, right? And Tony is not paying us for anything here. I mean,
Nope.
we just both like the guy. But Tony Vincent and the work he has done is absolutely, kind of towards the top of the list of really good sources of info about things evolving in the internet. Anything else about Shapegrams there, Richard?
No, I would just say if you want to see them in a little more, see them in action, I guess, or the concepts in action a little bit more, check out Tony's Instagram account, Learning in Hand. Learning in Hand is his Instagram account.
Instagram.com/learninginhand.
Yep.
Okay.
And yeah, every week he's got like cool tips that he puts up once a week in kind of a Shapegrammy format.
Cool.
So you can kind of see, kind of check that out. I'll bring, we can bring that up on the screen probably. Instagram.com.
Yeah, I can hold it up.
Yeah, Learning in Hand.
So Instagram is itself a site that I'm a little wary of, just because it can be a little concerning in certain ways. However, that's a much longer story by itself. And so here's Tony's. Here's Tony, and his Instagram feed. And so lots of good stuff here that is immediately useful for teachers. And so cool stuff there. Longtime viewers of Two EdTech Guys Take Questions might know that when I do shares, it's often about stories. And so starting about a year and a half ago, maybe it was, I started doing a weekly post at a thing called Next Vista Inspiring Video. So nextvista.org/NVIV. Find that right over here. Now, this one is called Access to the Right Tool. So the idea of this is that I find a really cool video that's out there and give you some discussion and writing prompts you can use with your students or colleagues. This is perfectly good stuff for kind of team meetings and staff meetings as well. And this one is about a guy named Jehiel Oliver, who grew up in the Northeast, went to kind of high-powered college, got out, went into investment banking or something like this, and decided no, and then figured out that in Nigeria there's like more farmable, arable land, right? That is just available than like almost anywhere else on the planet, by some metric. And so he comes up with this idea for a thing called Hello Tractor, which is kind of the Uber for tractors, right? And the model has evolved, but it is an amazing story of how a great idea can take hold and how a really innovative approach to solving a challenging problem can produce a win for a lot of different people. So in his company has created this app that allows people who own tractors, who win for them, to be able to kind of farm them out, so to speak, to farmers who need somebody to show up and till the field over the course of a day or two, rather than spending several weeks doing it by hand. And that's actually a cost savings as well. So anyway, this is just a fantastic example of innovative entrepreneurship, and big kudos to Jehiel Oliver and his team for the work they have done now in a number of sub-Saharan countries in Africa, and making just life better for others, which is pretty cool. So that gets us to newsletters, because Richard and I both put these things out. I put them out once a month, and it's always like an opportunity to win a Starbucks, because why not? And so feel free, take a look. nextvista.org/newsletter will get you there. I've written some books, and if you take an interest in these, just contact me, and I'm happy to talk to you about them. And if you got a team like reading these things. I'll even Zoom with you and talk to your team about it for free, just for a reasonable amount of time. And happy to do that. Richard, talk about your stuff.
Yeah, you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter, and I'll send you a copy of the Practical EdTech Handbook, which is 50 pages of my favorite EdTech tools of the year, and lots of things you can use right away. So check out my newsletter, or if you would like even more detail, you can check out my ebook, 50 Tech Tuesday Tips. If you are a teacher librarian, a media specialist, a tech coach, tech integrator, this ebook is for you. It's perfect for when your principal comes and says, hey, tomorrow afternoon, I need you to do a 30-minute workshop. I got you covered. Or go to my YouTube channel. I make a whole lot of screencast videos on a whole lot of different things, from Google Docs to ChatGPT and everything in between.
Well, we thank you for taking a little time to hang out with us. We hope that this kind of new format of what we're doing is interesting to you in a lot of ways. You're welcome to reach out. So nextvista.org/contact will get you in touch with me. You can ask about that mini course that I mentioned, the newsletters that Richard and I talked about, any of the tools that we mentioned. And you can also toss in questions for future episodes of Two EdTech Guys Take Questions. But we are excited to have the opportunity to share cool ideas with you, and we thank you for joining us.